Today is a late night thoughts, and the topic for the day is my almost perfect lens setup for my Sony set. Now, late night thoughts is an opinion video. This is not a review, but for today's video, I'll talk about each lens and why I like them, why is it here, and why I think this is also the perfect setup to me. Now, first, my Sony journey started from A7S3, so that's not very old. I didn't use Sony from the start because I didn't like the earlier A7 body, so A7S3 actually was my first camera, and I purchased it actually for videos because it has fantastic high ISO. But since then I sold it away because I purchased the DJI Ronin 4D, and that is my video camera today. I sold all my other video cameras and accessories away just for it. Now, in terms of camera, I have the Sony A1 here, and that's because this is my test camera for Sony equipment. So be it Tamron, Sony or Sigma, if I have a test equipment, I'll be testing on the Sony A1. But these lenses here are lenses that I own, and I think this setup is almost perfect for me for the purpose of portraiture and video. Now, notice something, there is no zoom lens, and personally I don't like zoom lenses unless I have no choice. So the only zoom lens that exists today that I use often is actually in my Canon system, and that is the 24 to 70, wrong, 24 to 105 f4 and 28 to 70 f2. That system is the system that my wife uses for jobs, and if I was helping her, I will also use the Canon system together with her so that we can change, and then yes, I use zoom lenses there. Now, I think you can see here, this is the 7200 from Nikon. I like this lens for sharpness, but I don't use it often. Still thinking whether should I sell it away. The exception, if you ask me. 200mm don't last long. With me, that is. Now, here you can see all the prime lenses. So I'll go through all of them, why did I get them, and how I feel about them. So, it's a mini review in all of them, and why I use it, or should I say what I use it for. First, the first lens, 20mm f1.8. This is actually the first lens I purchased with my A7S3 because, as I said, video lens first. I think this lens is fantastic. Let me get the hood off. Yeah, it's a bit tight. The lens, this 20mm f1.8, kind of like Sony threw everything in and decided not to call it GM. Maybe they were intending to call it GM at first, but yeah. Yes, everything. The clickable aperture ring, even a button to hold the focus if needed. LM motors, I believe. I may be wrong, but I believe LM motors. And relatively nice optics with a 60-something millimeters, 67mm filter thread. In almost every way, this is kind of like the almost perfect 20mm lens you can get. And Sony decided to just call it a G lens and give it an affordable price. If you are looking for a wide angle lens, this is the one. Great deal. Next, this is the 24mm f1.4. Honestly, no idea. I just purchased it last week, and you've been wondering why did I purchase a lens with no idea, right? Now, that's because I purchased it with the 135. Notice that this lens looks different, it has a lens wrap. I got it second-hand together with this lens, two of these lenses together, because the seller wanted to sell both of it. If not, he's not going to sell. And he sold it at 2,000 USD. That is a very good price. In the States, you can only buy this lens brand new for 2.1k USD, by the way. So literally, I bought this and I got this for free. But once again, these are second-hand, they're out of warranty, so there's some risk to it. Yeah. Overall, it's still a good deal though. So 24mm f1.4. Now, you'll be thinking, man, I still probably have a use for it, and that's true. I intend to use it for video purposes, and this is a 1.4. It is faster than the 20mm f1.8, and 24 is still plenty wide. So I'll probably use it a little bit more in my videos to try it out. But if I don't like it, I'll probably sell it away. But in the lineup here, this is as good as it gets. It's a very sharp lens, at least based on what I tried shooting with. Next, this 35 1.4. This is my most used lens. Okay. Currently, it's attached with, I believe, magnetic filter. This is actually a black mist. So this is actually my most used lens, and I really love it in every single way. It is small, it is sharp, and the price, remember, isn't that high either. And the best part, this is the start of the very nice, I'll say as a Sony hoods, which is felt inner lining, and then with the rubber, so you can actually nicely stand your lens on most surface without moving around. Nice stuff. Overall, if I can only choose one lens, this is the lens. I use it for all my videos, all my indoor photo shoots that has limited space, all my outdoor photo shoots if I want to shoot more background, and the bokeh is very pleasing still. No complaints. Best lens. For me, that is. Next is the 50mm f1.2, and to me, this is my most favorite lens. Now, this is my most used lens, and if I only have one lens, I'll take this any day. But this is my most favorite lens because I love the image from it. The rendering is really nice. It is, I'll say, as to me, the almost perfect lens optically, and I just love using it. Now, this lens is a miracle lens to me, considering what Sony did. This is the lightest 50mm f1.2 you can get today that is modern because that's important. It has everything that all the other lenses have, the clickable aperture ring and stuff, and it is LM motor, so it focuses the fastest among all the 50mm f1.22, and optically it is sharper than RF. Now, I'm not sure whether is it sharper than Nikon, not too sure. Based on what I read so far, it seems to be, but definitely sharper than the RF, and most importantly, after everything, lightest, sharpest, most functional, it is still the most affordable. 100 plus lower than the Nikon, and a good 300 plus lower than the Canon itself. It is really Sony saying, here, I give you the best lens I ever made at an affordable price. This is the Sony 50mm f1.2. Now, I said affordable price because in comparison to the rest, this is actually really considerably more affordable than them. But, it's still an expensive lens. I won't recommend it for everybody, especially if your budget is tight. Next, this is the Sigma 85 1.4. This is the best 85 1.4 for the Sony system. And this is the art version, so it even has a declickable, aperture wheel. As you can hear, no clicks. You can actually activate the clicks. It is very small, very small. I think this is the smallest 85 1.4 you can ever get. It's very sharp too, and it is so very corrected when it comes to chromatic aberrations. Now, that said, I didn't like this lens for two reasons. It has a very pronounced distortion. Means if you do on correction, this lens distorts and you can see lines bending. It looks quite irritating. I know you can fix it easily, but yeah, it's there and it's obvious. For an 85mm lens, I'm surprised. Next is the color. I don't think it's this lens problem. I think Sigma on general has a different color from Sony, but this lens really has a significant difference. And when I mix it with any other Sony lenses, I don't like the outcome. So if I was to use this lens, it has to be alone or with another Sigma lens, which I don't have for Sony. So yeah, I don't quite like this lens, even though it is the best 85 you can get for the Sony system. In fact, I think for the price, for the size, it's probably the best 85. I mean the 85 1.2 RF is better optically, but it costs so much more, weighs so much more. The best lens is the one you carry out, and this one definitely is way easier to do it. Now, this lens here, I like this lens. I use it I don't use it often, yeah. This is the 105 f2.8. I love this lens. Very sharp, nice, gives me macro. I purchased it purely for macro, in fact. But I use it very little because I found out I have very little love for macro. Surprisingly little love for macro. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I don't know why. So yeah, this is the 105. Nothing much to talk about because don't quite like it. Or should I say don't quite use it. often. Now the last one, this is the 135 1.8. This lens has always been a desire. I hope to one day own it, but never a want. Never a want. Definitely not a need to. This lens to me is kind of like the perfect 135. But it's 135. I don't desire such a long lens normally. I treat the 100 plus millimeter lens as a novelty lens for certain portrait purpose. But yeah. So last lens I purchased, and as I said earlier, I purchased it at a very good price, second hand. So I have it today. But when I use it, it always reminds me why this lens is something I always desire. It's so sharp, so corrected, nice bokeh. I really think that this is a lens that I'll always desire if I didn't buy it, but never a want. So if I have money, I will probably spend it on some of the lenses before this. But since it was such a good price, I just gave in to it, my desires, and I got it. I recently shot this and I got some photos. I think it's fantastic. Okay, so this is pretty much my near perfect Sony setup. No zoom lenses because that's only for work. I like every single lens of this setup except maybe the Sigma 85, not too much like. This one is just no chance to use. But that's it. If I can only choose one lens, I will take the 35 1.4. This is my most used lens, and if I can choose one, this is it. If I can choose two lenses, it's the 50mm f1.2. This will give me the slightly wider angle that I shoot indoors, and this will give me my perfect portrait lens. If I can choose three lenses, it will be the third 20mm 1.8. This is my video lens, and it's also my landscape lens, my wide angle lens, my traveling lens. If I can choose the fourth one, the 135, because it's such a perfect portrait lens. The other three lenses, once again, Sigma, not too much alike. This one, macro, don't use it often, good to have. And then the 24 1.4, if I want wide, I should go wider, 20mm instead. That's my thoughts. So that's about it for today. I hope you enjoy my sharing on why I like different lenses, why I think this is such a perfect setup. In fact, if you ask me if you have any other brands that have such a setup, 1.4, 1.8s, and at this range, I think this is also the other lenses perfect setup itself. The unique part of Sony is that it's very light, and together with the A1, it really forms the lightest full frame system that you can carry overseas, and it's fast. Now 1.4 to 1.4, 1.8 to 1.8, you cannot compare 1.4 to 1.8 because that's just not fair. But if you compare it to 1.4, the Sony system is really the lightest system you can get with a professional high-end body. I love it for traveling. In fact, I always use my Sony setup for traveling unless I have pretty much no choice or I'm trying out some stuff. If not, Sony is the setup I will use for traveling itself because of its weight and because it's so optically good, and because I get 1.4 at a very low weight itself and size. That's about it for today. Do share with me your thoughts and comments below at the discussion section. We can always talk about this lenses thing. Or which lens should I replace with? What other lenses do you recommend in the Sony system? I want to know because I'm interested. By the way, I know you birders out there will say 600mm. Well, for some reason, I always have people saying, yes, I love the 600mm because birders are here. That's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.